I'm David Breeden. I'm the senior minister at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, which is a historically humanist congregation, and this is Coffee and Wisdom. This week, we are looking at satirical religions to take seriously. Yesterday, we talked about the flying spaghetti monster and Pastafarianism as one of those kinds of maybe slightly satirical, maybe a little bit serious kind of thing. As a matter of fact, I should mention something called Poe's Law. Poe's Law is an adage of internet culture stating that without a clear indicator of the author's intent, it is impossible to create a parody of extreme views so obviously exaggerated that it cannot be mistaken by some readers for a sincere expression of the views being parodied. The original statement by Nathan Poe reads like this: without a winking smiley or other blatant display of humor, it is utterly impossible to parody a creationist in such a way that someone won't mistake for the genuine article. So one of the things about the internet and the fact that print doesn't communicate winks and that kind of thing except through emojis, one of the problems with this is Poe's Law, that we have a very hard time knowing when something is satirical. And some people, says Poe's Law, will always get that wrong. So, is Neil deGrasse Tyson joking when he gets all dressed up and wears his Pastafarian outfit? Good question. Good question. Poe's Law will say we don't really know. Well, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Here's my handle. Here's my spout. I talked about this a little bit yesterday as one of the ways that some of these satirical religions operate. It is called Russell's teapot. And Bertrand Russell, the great logician, said this: many Orthodox people speak as though it were the business of skeptics to disprove received ideas. And you get the idea here that just because it's old, just because a dogma is old, it isn't therefore what, so receive dogmas rather than of dogmatists to prove them. This is, of course, a mistake, he says. If I were to suggest that between the Earth and Mars, there is a China teapot revolving about the sun in an elliptical orbit, nobody would be able to disprove my assertion, provided I were careful to add that the teapot is too small to be revealed even by our most powerful telescopes. And he goes on to say, but if I were to go on to say that, since my assertion cannot be disproved, it is intolerable presumption on the part of human reason to doubt it, I should rightly be thought to be talking nonsense. If, however, the existence of such a teapot were affirmed in ancient books, taught as the sacred truth every Sunday, and instilled into the minds of children at school, hesitation to believe in its existence would become a mark of eccentricity and entitle the doubter to the attentions of the psychiatrist in an enlightened age or of the inquisitor in an earlier time. So you get the idea here. Claims that are old are somehow treated differently than claims that are new, even if they are absurd. Now, the objection that many people have, philosophers have, to Russell's teapot argument is that actually it's not fair within logic to introduce something that is patently absurd, like the teapot. So that's the argument that's going back and forth on this one. But still yet, we do know that a lot of people do think this is a good argument against religion. For example, this is another Russell's teapot one, the invisible pink unicorn. This is the symbol of folks get tattooed on various places on their body. It includes the void symbol for empty set, and also a little stylized unicorn horn there. So the invisible pink unicorn, or the IPU, much again like the flying spaghetti monster. The invisible pink unicorn is both invisible and pink, is the claim here. Well, logical absurdity as these folks will argue as is religion. So you get the idea here of Russell's teapot and how this is used in a lot of satirical religions. The invisible pink unicorn is both invisible and pink. Now, do people really believe in invisible pink unicorns? You can indeed go to their website, invisiblepink.unicorn.org, and look this up. And it says this: although there is no telling what some people in the world believe, Poe's law, right? Supporters of the invisible pink unicorn movement do not really believe their lives are controlled by unicorns. The followers are all atheists who, by definition, do not believe in God or a higher power, even invisible pink unicorns. The movement is simply a way to illustrate that what they see as the contradictory and indefensible nature of religion. It's a very fun website, however. If you want to go take a peek at it sometime, you too can pick up your invisible pink unicorn gear and play some online games. Well, I mentioned yesterday, a very brief recap here, that what the Pastafarians are doing anyway is talking about what they really hold sacred by exposing what they see as the absurdities of various religions. They believe in reason, logic, evidence, and science. They believe in secular values. They believe in a separation of religion and state, and they believe in tolerance. Very good things to believe in. Now let's look a moment at something that's not about Russell's teapot. Here is a little example that I found on the BBC website. Sweden recognizes new file-sharing religion, copyism. All right, so the church, which holds Control-C and Control-V, shortcuts for copy and paste, as sacred symbols, does not directly promote illegal file sharing, focusing instead on the open distribution of knowledge to all. This is their symbol, by the way, and there are several on their website that you can put on your website to say, go ahead, copy this to your heart's content. It was founded by 19-year-old philosophy student and leader Isaac Gerson. He hopes that file sharing will now be given religious protection. For the Church of Copyism, information is holy and copying is a sacrament, he says. Information holds a value in itself and in what it contains, and the value multiplies through copying. Therefore, copying is central for the organization and its members, he said in a statement. So there you go. The Pastafarians are fighting about one kind of religious thing. This young philosopher is serious about something very different, something that he thinks actually spreads knowledge through the world. But again, satirical? Good question, right? Well, that, is a head scratcher then. What is religion as defined in the U.S. legal system? Would we have that religion declared a religion in U.S. law as it was in Sweden? Good question. This from the freedomforuminstitute.org, talking about how we define religion in the U.S. Although it has attempted to create standards to differentiate religious beliefs and actions from similar non-religious beliefs, the Supreme Court has never articulated a formal definition for religion. Given the diversity of Americans' religious experience since the Constitution was created, a single comprehensive definition has proved elusive. In 1890, the Supreme Court in Davis versus Beeson expressed religion in traditional theistic terms. Quote, the term religion has reference to one's views of his relations to his creator and to the obligations they impose of reverence for his being and character and of obedience to his will. Now, you see how that is a completely theistic sort of definition that leaves out a lot of very old religions, as a matter of fact. So, in the 1960s, the court expanded its view of religion. In its 1961 decision, Torcaso versus Watkins, the court stated that the Establishment Clause prevents government from aiding, quote, those religions based on a belief in the existence of God as against those religions founded on different beliefs. In a footnote, the court clarified that this principle extended to, quote, religions in this country, which do not teach what would generally be considered a belief in the existence of God, such as Buddhism, Taoism, ethical culture, and secular humanism, and others. By the way, this is where the term secular humanism comes from. It was not invented by people who calling themselves secular humanists. It was rather invented as a court definition of these people who don't go to church. So there you go, the invention of the term secular humanism, which was then picked up by various people to say, yeah, by golly, we are secular humanists. Well, now let's look at this now. In its 1965 ruling, United States versus Seeger, the court sought to resolve disagreement between federal circuit courts over the interpretation of the Universal Military Training and Service Act of 1948. The case involved denial of conscientious objector status to individuals who base their objections to war on sources other than a supreme being, as specifically required by the statute. The court interpreted the statute as questioning, quote, whether a given belief that is sincere and meaningful occupies a place in the life of its possessor, parallel to that filled by the orthodox belief in God of one who clearly qualifies for the exemption. Where such beliefs have parallel positions in the lives of their respective holders, we cannot say that one is in relation to a supreme being and the other is not. You get the distinction here going on. So actually, a decision made particularly about conscientious objectors, many of whom were saying, guess what? I'm a secular humanist, by golly, and I don't believe in war. So whether a given belief that is sincere and meaningful occupies a place in the life of its possessor parallel to that filled by the orthodox belief in God. Where such beliefs have parallel positions in the lives of their respective holders, we cannot say, right, that one is in relation to a supreme being and the other is not. All right, there's your definition of religion within U.S. law. So is a Pastafarian who demands equal time for prayer before a city council. Is this a religion or not is a very good question. And it has not been decided on a federal level. Some municipalities and states have said, yep, that's true. Others have not. And we do not have at the present time a federal law about this kind of religion that is pretty clearly a Russell's teapot sort of religion. Well, what about Praise Bacon? Yes, there is indeed a religious group that praises bacon. Bacon is our God, says this nice big sign, because bacon is real. The United Church of Bacon. And over on the other side, the Secular Coalition of Las Vegas, godless, so are we. So serious or not serious? At their website, and you too can check out Praise Bacon and get the t-shirt, you'll see this. Are you tired of religious people being seen as morally superior to skeptics and atheists? Of religions getting special privileges in the law because they're perceived as better than secular nonprofit organizations? As a protest, a group of skeptic and atheist friends had a fantastic idea in 2010. Let's start a real legal church with a funny name and then demand the same rights as mainstream religions. And again, as I mentioned yesterday and a little review today, the Pastafarians really think these basic things also. We oppose supernatural claims, they say. We're skeptics and atheists. In our religion, we doubt religion. We fight discrimination. Atheists and non-believers are not inferior and should not be hated and marginalized. We raise money for charity and are striving to be the most generous church in the world. Our officiants perform legal weddings for members, friends, and family, and always for free. How joyful. And we expose religious privileges as silly by claiming the same rights for capital B, bacon. Praise bacon, and they're going to be a little bit, they're not dogmatic about it here. If you prefer to praise vegetarian bacon or turkey bacon, that is fine. And they do say that they now have 25,000 members signed up for Bacon, the religion. So there you go. Well, we'll see. We're going to talk a little bit more about the satirical ones. And also now you're seeing a split between two different kinds of satirical religions. One over here with the Russell's teapot idea of showing the absurdity of religions, and other ones just saying, wait a minute, this ought to be a religion, like copy and paste. So there you go. Now, tonight at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, don't miss Keep Living with J. Exodus Hooper. And tonight his guest is going to be Christian Hayden, a brilliant young ethical culture leader, speaking of secular humanism, etc. So tune in tonight on our Den of Conversation YouTube channel. And Bibles and Beer this week, we're going to be doing a humanist Bible study. Isaac gets pranked. Of all of the patriarchs in the book of Genesis, considered the fathers of the Jewish faith tradition, Isaac is kind of, the one who gets pranked a lot. Poor guy. Doesn't get his due very often. So we're going to be talking about that on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time at Den of Conversation. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll be back tomorrow with some more satirical religions. Thanks.